I'd like to share something with you that I'm calling Avatar Classroom. This is a solution for things that you would really like to do in a physical classroom where students have to move their bodies around, but you're teaching virtually, and so you no longer have that space to move around in. It's a way of basically creating avatars for ourselves that would move around, and then we can use other tools to actually have conversations and do the kinds of collaboration that we would do once we've moved into those spaces. So we start with a basic Google Slides presentation. I've just opened up a brand new one. I'm going to get rid of the stuff on the side for right now, and I'm also going to clear off the title and the subtitle because this actually is not going to be used as a presentation. It's going to be used as just a space. I'm also going to just turn the background black. You do not have to do that. I just like that as a background for this kind of work. And then I'm going to title it Avatar Classroom. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is invite students into this space. But before I do, I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to insert a text box, and I'm going to just type the word question in it. You can't see that because it's in black type, but I will change that to white type so that you can see it. And I will make that a little bit bigger just to set it up ahead of time, and I'll center it so that it's nice and clear. Okay, and then I want to create another text box, and this is going to be how students create their own avatars in the room. So we'll have another text box. I'm just going to type the word name in it, and this time I'm going to leave that as black because I'm going to shade the box a color. Okay. I'm also going to center that, and this is just me being picky and designy. It's not really that important, but it does make the aesthetics a little bit nicer. Okay, so what we have is one name box, and I will just stick that in the corner. Actually, I'm going to put it way down here so that students sort of know that that's our base. Okay, I am going to be inviting students into this Google Slides presentation with editing privileges, and what they're going to do is they're going to start from this name box. They're going to copy it, paste it, and then create their own. So what I will eventually have in here is a room full of different name cards that students can then move around based on the types of questions that I ask them. So what they're each going to do is they're going to copy, click somewhere else on the screen, click paste, and then that's going to give them one of these to work with. From there, they can change the name, they can change the shading in the background, and if I allow them to, they could even change the font and sort of really get it personalized, and then that's going to be their sort of avatar for this space. So before we get started on that piece, I need to show you how to share it. If you don't know how to do that, I'm going to click share. Right now, it's restricted to only, I would have to add all of my students' names. You could do that if you have a class list already ready to just pop in there. It might be easier to just do anyone with the link. You just give them a link to this document, make them all editors so that they all have editing privileges. And then you copy that link, and that's the link that you're going to send to your students so that they can get in here. So I'm going to go into a student's account, paste this in, and you'll see it from the student view. Okay, so now I'm in a student's view. I've been invited in. I'm going to do what I just showed you. I'll take this card here. I'll copy it, paste it, and then I'm going to make it my own. I'm going to change the name to Ruby, and I'm going to change the shading to a blue, and I'm even going to change the font so that it's something a little more fun. You might not want to let your students mess with fonts. You might want to just keep everything the same. That's fine. It's a way of making it a little more fun. So what we do want to tell students, though, is to not make it too big. We don't want her to make this, gigantic so that it takes over the whole page. And because if you have a lot of students, then there's not a lot of room. If you only have 8 students, they can make them a little bit bigger. Okay, so I've given her access. I'm going to go back to my own view now, and I can see that that's been created. So I'll pause this. I'll make a few more so that you can see how it works, and then we will sort of play a game so you can see how that works. Okay, so the students have made their own avatars, and this is a small class. So just imagine that this is lots and lots of students. And then the next thing I do is I ask a question. So one question that, it's an icebreaker that I do is called this or that, where students have to go to different sides of the room. This has different names. Sometimes it's called philosophical chairs. It's got other names too, but it's basically where students have to choose sides. So one common question is whether students prefer to have a dog or a cat as a pet. And so what I can do then is I can put dogs over here. I can copy and paste that. I can put cats over here. And so instead of having them walk to one side of the room or another, I can say, okay, now go ahead and go. And each student will then move their avatar to the side of the room that matches their opinion. And so as the students are in the document, they're going to see their classmates moving from one side of the room to the other. This is how this question tends to always go. So once students have moved to the side that represents their opinion, and sometimes there are people who just want really to stay right in the middle, then you can get on Zoom or whatever platform you're on for discussion and have students actually talk about that, about why they are where they are. It's not quite as dynamic as it would be in person, but it's a way of doing this type of icebreaker without being in a physical space. Another type of a question that might not be so simple to answer, and I would recommend as the teacher that you just manually change these as you go. You could set up a whole series of slides that already have the questions in them, but students would have to then copy and paste their avatars from one slide to the next. So there are probably some workarounds maybe to save some time, but if you're already in there talking with them, it may not be that much trouble to just type in questions as you get them. So another one would be, it's a different game that's called blobs and lines, where students organize themselves into groups or into lines. So you could say line up by your birth date. In this case, students need to know something about themselves or about each other. They need to actually talk a little bit, which wouldn't be practical in a Zoom. But what they can do is use their avatar space to add information. And you might tell them this, or you might just let them figure it out on their own. But maybe Dina figures this one out first, and she says, she just pops her birthday in there, and then all of a sudden everybody knows, and she can change the size of her box if she wants to fit that better. But maybe once one student does that, then the rest of them can figure out, oh, okay, and they can all start adding their information, and then they'll be able to line themselves up in birth order. And they could add all different kinds of information to these boxes depending on the question that you ask. So those are the basics of the avatar classroom. Hopefully it can help us to at least sort of get a similar experience to what we might get in a physical classroom. One last thing you want to do if you are using this system is change your notification settings. So go into the comment box, click notifications, and change it from all to none. Otherwise, you're going to get an email every single time one of your students moves their avatar around. So this is not the type of document that you want to get a lot of notifications about. So just turn those off for this so that you don't have to keep getting your inbox clogged up.